Have you ever noticed that you can spend an entire day surrounded by people, saying all the right things, smiling at all the right moments, and still come home feeling strangely hollow, as if you were never actually there? Have you ever caught yourself replaying a single sentence from a conversation hours after it ended, turning it over and over, searching someone else's words for proof that you are still acceptable? And have you ever paused long enough to ask how many of the choices that built your life, the career you maintain, the way you speak, even the way you rest, were truly chosen by you, and how many were quietly chosen by your fear of disappointing the people watching? Carl Jung spent his life studying the hidden architecture of the human mind, and he came to a conclusion that most people find uncomfortable to hear. He believed that the average person does not actually live their own life. They live a negotiated settlement between who they are and who the world seems willing to tolerate. Year after year, they trade small pieces of their inner truth for small pieces of approval, and the exchange feels so reasonable in the moment that they never notice the slow disappearance of the person doing the trading. Then one quiet evening, often in the middle of an ordinary week, something inside them asks a question they cannot answer. If everyone stopped watching, who would I even be? Tonight, this video is not going to teach you how to be more impressive, more likable, or more visible. We are going to walk in the opposite direction entirely, into a question that sits at the very center of Carl Jung's psychology. What actually happens inside a human being when they stop performing for the world and finally turn their attention back toward their own soul? Because the deepest peace you will ever feel will not arrive on the day everyone finally approves of you. It will arrive on the night you realize, perhaps while drifting towards sleep, that you no longer need them to. So let yourself settle in, let your breathing slow down, and stay with me. Because what follows may quietly change the way you see your entire life. But before we go any further, I want to ask you to do one small thing, and I am asking now, at the beginning, for a reason that belongs to the heart of this video. In a moment, we are going to talk about how exhausting it is to live under the gaze of others, performing, polishing, managing the impression you leave behind. So here is the experiment. In the comments below, write only the hour on your clock and the place where you are listening from. Nothing clever, nothing impressive. There is no profile to maintain here in the dark. Just 2 in the morning, Manchester. Just 11 at night, Lagos. Just 3 a.m., Ohio. Cannot sleep again. And then look at the others. Hundreds of strangers, scattered across the dark side of the earth, all lying awake with the same unnamed weight, none of them performing for anyone. You have spent all day being watched. This is the one room where you are simply accompanied. People tell me they return to these comments on hard nights, just to remember they were never as alone as they felt. So leave your hour and your city, and let someone else find it at 4 in the morning and feel less alone because you were here. Now, let us begin. Number 1, the hidden addiction nobody admits to having. There is an addiction that runs through modern life more widely than any substance, and it is almost never named because everyone is participating in it together. It is the addiction to being seen in a certain way. Carl Jung observed that as people grow older, something strange happens to the center of gravity inside their psyche. In childhood, the center sits inside the body. A child knows what it wants with total clarity. It cries when something is wrong and laughs when something is delightful. And it does not first check the room to see whether crying or laughing is appropriate. But slowly, through 1,000 small corrections, the child learns that certain feelings earn warmth and certain feelings earn cold silence. And so the center of gravity begins to migrate. It moves out of the body, out of the heart, and into the eyes of other people. By adulthood, many people are living entirely from that external position. They do not ask, "What do I feel?" They ask, "What will they think I should feel?" They do not ask, "What do I want?" They ask, "What can I want without losing anyone?" Jung saw this migration as one of the quietest catastrophes in psychological life, because the person it happens to almost never notices. From the outside, they look responsible, social, well-adjusted. From the inside, they have become a house where the owner no longer lives, kept perfectly clean for visitors who only ever stay a few minutes. Consider how fragile this arrangement makes a person. When your sense of worth is stored inside other people, you have placed your most precious possession in a vault to which you do not hold the key. A warm message in the morning, and you feel solid for hours. A flat tone in someone's voice at lunch, and the ground tilts beneath you for the rest of the day. You are not unstable because something is wrong with you. You are unstable because you are trying to stand on a floor that other people are constantly walking across. Jung noticed a paradox here that explains so much of human exhaustion. The less contact a person has with their own inner life, the more desperately they need the world to confirm that they exist. Validation becomes a substitute for self-knowledge. If I cannot feel my own worth from within, then I must collect evidence of it from without. And the collecting never ends, because evidence gathered from outside expires almost immediately. The compliment from last week cannot protect you from the silence of today. This is why some of the most admired people you know are also the most secretly anxious. Their lives are full of applause and empty of rest. Jung once wrote that the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. And when you sit with that sentence, you begin to understand why the addiction holds so firmly. Seeking approval is not really about vanity. It is an escape route. As long as I am busy managing your perception of me, I never have to be alone in a room with the parts of myself I have not yet learned to face. The performance is not the disease. The performance is the painkiller. And like every painkiller taken for too long, it slowly numbs the very capacity it was protecting. The capacity to simply feel that you are enough, while nothing and no one is confirming it. Watch how this addiction structures an ordinary day, because it hides best in plain sight. The morning begins, for most people now, with a reach. Before the body has even fully returned from sleep, the hand finds the phone, and the first question the psyche asks the new day is not, "How do I feel?" but, "What happened to my image while I was unconscious?" Did they reply? Did they react? Did the number move? Carl Jung never saw a smartphone, but he described the mechanism behind that reach with uncanny precision a century ago. Because the technology is new and the hunger is ancient. The phone did not create the addiction to validation. It simply built, for the first time in human history, a machine that can feed it every few minutes, and a hunger fed every few minutes does not weaken. It grows. There is a cruelty hidden in the design of this feeding, and it is worth seeing clearly. The approval never arrives on a schedule. Sometimes the world responds warmly. Sometimes it responds with silence, and no one can predict which. Psychologists discovered long ago that this is the most binding pattern of reward that exists. The unpredictable kind. The kind that keeps a person pulling the lever long after the winning has stopped, because the next pull might be the one. And so people check, and check again, not because they expect joy, but because the checking itself has become the only way to quiet the question underneath. The question that asks, am I still acceptable? Am I still wanted? Am I still real? Notice that the question never stays answered. That is its signature. A genuine inner certainty, once established, holds its shape through silence. But validation borrowed from outside behaves like heat in a house with no insulation. However warm the evening, by morning the rooms are cold again, and the gathering must begin from nothing. This is why the most validated people you can imagine, the famous, the followed, the constantly applauded, so often describe an emptiness that deepens in exact proportion to their audience. They are running the largest furnaces in the world inside houses that cannot hold heat, and they know, better than anyone, that the warmth was never really theirs. A listener once described to this channel, with painful precision, what it was like to live inside the machine at full speed. She was a painter, talented enough that sharing her work online had seemed not only harmless but necessary, and for a while it was wonderful. The numbers climbed, the kind words arrived, and she painted more than she ever had. But somewhere along the way, without any single decision she could point to, the order of things reversed. She stopped painting what the quiet in her wanted to paint and began painting what the numbers had liked before. She knew her audience's taste the way a servant knows a master's moods, and her own taste grew fainter every season, a radio station drifting out of range. The day she understood what had happened was almost comically small. She finished a piece, stood back, and realized she could not tell whether she liked it. She genuinely could not locate the answer. The only question her mind would produce was whether they would like it, and she stood in her own studio, in front of her own canvas, waiting for the opinion of people who were not in the room, who would never be in the room, whose faces she had mostly never seen. She said it was the loneliest moment of her life, and the most clarifying, because she finally saw the trade she had been making in increments too small to notice. She had been selling the artist to feed the account. There are two selves in tension inside every modern person, and her studio simply made the tension visible. There is the experiencing self, the one actually living your life, tasting the food, feeling the morning, standing in front of the canvas. And there is the broadcasting self, the one constantly composing your life into reports for an audience, framing the meal before eating it, drafting the description of the experience while the experience is still happening. And the tragedy of our moment is that the broadcasting self has been given tools so powerful that in many lives it has simply taken over. People stand inside their own golden hours, their travels, their children's laughter, and some narrating function inside them is already turning it into material, already wondering how it will look from outside, and so they are never entirely anywhere. Jung's instruction to focus on yourself, translated into this century, might simply read, return to the experiencing self. Let some things go unreported. Let some sunsets die unphotographed with you as their only witness. What the broadcasting self calls waste, the soul calls privacy. And privacy, it turns out, is the soil where a self actually grows. The painter, by the way, did not delete everything and vanish to a cabin. The repair was quieter than that. She began keeping a private sketchbook that no one would ever see, ugly, free, and honest. And she described the first weeks of drawing in it as almost frightening, like speaking into a room and hearing no echo at all. But slowly, inside that echoless room, a familiar voice came back into range, faint at first, then unmistakable. Her own eye, her own taste, the inner master she had pensioned off years before. And she wept the day she finished a private page and felt, with no one to confirm it, the full unbroadcast weight of the words, "This is good." That is the feeling this whole chapter has been circling. Not the world's verdict, received. Your own verdict, recovered. Where does the hunger begin? Jung would have us look back, gently and without blame, at the earliest economy of love we ever knew. Few parents intend it, but in almost every childhood there are moments when warmth arrives in response to performance. The good grade brings the bright face. The quiet obedience brings the peaceful evening. The tears, the anger, the inconvenient need bring the turned back or the tired sigh. A child is the finest pattern detecting instrument on earth, and it draws the obvious conclusion long before it has words for it. Love is a wage. It is paid for services rendered. Be pleasing, and you will be kept. And then that child grows a body and a career and perhaps a family of its own, and goes on working for the same wage from new employers, colleagues, partners, strangers, an algorithm, never noticing that the contract was drawn up by a 5-year-old and has never once been renegotiated. There is a distinction here that can change a life once it is truly felt. The distinction between being seen and being known. Being seen is what the performance earns. It is attention paid to the surface, and it can be gathered in great quantities while the inner person starves. Being known is something else entirely. It is what happens in the rare moments when the mask slips and someone meets what is actually there and does not look away. One moment of being known feeds the soul more than years of being seen. And the deep tragedy of the validation addict is that their whole strategy makes being known impossible. The better the performance, the more applause for someone who does not exist, and the lonelier the one who does. It helps, as you begin loosening this addiction, to make one careful distinction, because the goal is not to become a person who hears nothing from the world. The world's responses contain two very different substances that arrive in identical packaging. One is feedback, information about your work, your effect, your blind spots. And feedback is nourishment, the honest mirror every craftsman and every soul requires. The other is verdict, a judgment not on what you did but on what you are, and verdict is the poison. The mature inner life learns to open every package from the world slowly, keep the information, and decline the verdict. Someone can tell you the report was unclear, and that is a gift. The moment the sentence inside you becomes, "I am unclear, I am insufficient, I am less," the gift has rotted into verdict. And verdicts are precisely what you stopped accepting on the day you took your worth back under your own roof. And the weaning itself, like all weanings, happens in small, deliberate abstinences. The accomplishment you do not announce, savored privately for one full day before anyone is allowed to applaud it, so that you can taste, perhaps for the first time in years, what your own satisfaction is like without sweetener. The message you do not send, the one whose only true purpose was to be reassured. The opinion you keep, whole and unposted, discovering that a thought can be real without witnesses. Each abstinence is tiny, and each one is enormous, because each one teaches the nervous system a sentence it has never once been allowed to learn. Nothing happened when no one confirmed me. I went unverified for a day, and I remained. So let the day's gathering end here, just for tonight. There is nothing to collect in this darkness, no number to move, no impression to manage. For these few hours, the question of how you appeared can be set down at the edge of the bed like heavy luggage, because no one is watching now, and you are still here, which means you were never made of their watching at all. There was a man, let us call him Daniel, who was known in his company as the person who never said no. He answered messages within minutes, at any hour. He took the projects nobody wanted. His colleagues described him as tireless, and he wore the word like a medal. Then he was passed over for a promotion in favor of someone who worked half as much, and something in him broke that he could not explain to anyone. It was not the lost title that wounded him. It was the sudden, vertiginous discovery that he had no idea why he had been working that way at all. He had not been building a career. He had been feeding a hunger, and the hunger had never once said thank you. Late one night, unable to sleep, he asked himself when he had last done anything at all, simply because his own soul wanted it, and he could not remember. That question, the one Daniel could not answer, is the doorway, because the first step away from the addiction is not willpower, and it is not isolation. It is simply noticing, with honesty and without self-attack, how much of your daily energy flows toward managing how you appear, and how little flows toward knowing who you are. The world will not hand your worth back to you. It does not even know it is holding it. You have to reach into the eyes of others, quietly, without drama, and take yourself back. But this raises a deeper question. If a person has spent decades shaping themselves to be acceptable, then what exactly is the thing the world has been looking at all this time? Jung had a precise name for it, and understanding it changes everything. Number 2, the mask that started wearing you. Carl Jung gave a name to the face we prepare for the world. He called it the persona, after the masks worn by actors in the ancient theater. Masks that allowed a single performer to become a king, a beggar, a god, depending on what the play required. Jung was careful to say that the persona itself is not a lie and not a sickness. It is a necessary instrument of social life. You speak differently to a frightened child than to a tax inspector, and you should. The persona is the diplomatic skin through which the inner world touches the outer one. The tragedy begins only at one precise moment, the moment a person forgets that they are wearing it. Think of how the forgetting happens, because it never happens all at once. It happens the way a river carves stone, through repetition so gentle it feels like nothing. In a meeting, you swallow a disagreement because the room feels tense, and the room rewards your silence with comfort. At a family dinner, you laugh at something that quietly hurt you, and the evening stays pleasant. On a difficult day, someone asks how you are, and you say fine, because the true answer would take too long and ask too much of them. Each of these moments is small, defensible, almost wise, but the psyche keeps a ledger that the conscious mind does not read. Every time the inner truth is set aside for the outer performance, the persona thickens by one invisible layer, and the voice underneath grows 1 degree quieter. After enough years, a strange reversal completes itself. The mask no longer serves the person serves the mask. They wake up not asking what they need, but what the character they have built needs in order to remain believable. Jung described this condition with surgical precision when he wrote that the persona is that which in reality one is not, but which oneself, as well as others, think one is. Read that slowly. Not only do others mistake the mask for you, you mistake the mask for you. And once that identification is complete, a subtle terror takes up residence in the background of life, the terror of being found out. Though you could not even say what would be found, only that something underneath does not match the surface, and that the mismatch must never be seen. This is the secret engine behind so much of what gets called anxiety. It is the exhaustion of a guard who can never leave his post. And the modern world has given the persona something it never had before, a body that does not sleep. Your online presence is a second mask that goes on working through the night, smiling in photographs taken years ago, holding opinions you posted in another mood, performing a curated life to audiences you will never meet, in time zones where you are unconscious. Once, the mask could at least be set down at the front door of your own home. Now it stands outside forever, and some part of the psyche knows it is out there, exposed, reviewable, permanent, and stays subtly on duty around the clock guarding it. If you have ever felt a strange background fatigue that no amount of rest resolves, consider that you may be the first generation of human beings whose persona never gets to lie down. The mask also has a way of being assigned before we are old enough to refuse it. In almost every family, there is a quiet distribution of roles, made by no one and enforced by everyone. One child becomes the responsible one, another the funny one, another the easy one who needs nothing. These assignments feel like descriptions, but they function like contracts. The responsible one learns that the family's stability is her wage and her worth. And 40 years later, she is still unable to fall apart in front of anyone, even when her life is collapsing, because the role has no clause for collapse. The funny one learns that his pain is acceptable only as material, and grows into a man whose friends know 1,000 of his jokes and none of his sorrows. The easy one needed things all along, of course, and learns to need them so quietly that eventually even she cannot hear it. None of these people chose their mask. They were cast in a play that began before their memory did, and the bravest thing they will ever do is walk off that stage for a moment and see whether they are still loved out of costume. The body, meanwhile, keeps an honest record of what the performance costs, because the body cannot lie the way the face can. The jaw that aches from being clenched through pleasant conversations. The shoulders that live up near the ears, braced against an inspection that never quite comes. The breath that stays shallow all day, as if the lungs themselves were trying not to take up too much room. If you scan yourself right now, lying there, you may find some of these tensions still holding their positions. Faithful soldiers of a war that ended hours ago when you left the last room with people in it. Let them stand down as we speak. Unclench the jaw. Let the shoulders fall away from the ears. The inspection is over. There is no one here to convince. There is a cost to the mask that almost no one calculates until late, and it falls on the people who love you, or rather, on the people who are trying to. Because whoever loves a persona is loving a portrait, and on some level both people know it. The husband who has only ever met his wife's composure has never actually met his wife. The friends who adore the entertainer have not yet been introduced to the man. This is the secret sorrow inside so many close relationships that look perfect from every angle. Two masks in faithful conversation for decades. Two actual people starving politely behind them, each one lonely in the other's company and unable to say so, because saying so is exactly what the mask was built to prevent. Jung would say that intimacy is, by definition, the meeting of what is behind the masks, which means the depth of every relationship in your life is set, precisely and without exception, by the amount of realness you can risk inside it. So, the experiments begin small, as all brave things do. One true preference spoken where you would normally defer. Actually, I would rather not. One honest answer to "how are you?" given to a person who has earned it, tired, in truth, and a little lost this month. One opinion offered before checking the room's weather. Then you watch what happens, and two discoveries tend to follow. The first is that the catastrophe does not come. The room adjusts, the sky holds, and most people lean closer to realness, not away from it, because everyone behind every mask is starving for permission. The second discovery is quieter and takes longer. You begin to learn which of your relationships can hold the real you and which were always contracts with the costume. And although that second knowledge can ache, it is the beginning of an honest life, because now the love that remains is verified. It is addressed to someone who actually exists. Jung observed that the persona is most dangerous not when it is large but when it is praised, because praise is the glue that fuses the mask to the face. A man criticized for his mask can still feel the difference between it and himself. A man rewarded for it, promoted for it, loved for it, slowly loses the seam. Why would he look behind a face that is working so well? This is the secret reason that outward success so often arrives together with inner deadness, and why Jung saw breakdowns in the middle of accomplished lives not as failures but as the psyche's last honest act. The moment the soul stops co-signing the performance. The first practice, then, is the gentlest one imaginable. Catch the mask in motion, once a day, without judgment. Notice the laugh that came out before the joke was funny. Notice the "of course, it is no problem" that cost you an evening you needed. Notice the fine that left your mouth while something in your chest disagreed. You do not need to correct any of it yet. In Jung's psychology, consciousness itself is the medicine. A mask that is seen is already half removed, because the seeing requires a seer, and the seer is the very self the mask was built to hide. I think of a woman I once knew, a hospice nurse, of all professions the one most associated with compassion, and compassion was truly in her. But somewhere along the way, her gentleness had stopped being a gift she gave and had become a uniform she could not take off. She was the one who comforted everyone, the one who never burdened anyone, the one who was always okay. When her own father fell ill, she organized everything, soothed everyone, and shed her tears alone in a parked car, because the woman everyone knew did not weep in front of people, and she could no longer locate the woman underneath who did. She told me once, in a voice almost too quiet to hear, that her kindness had become the loneliest room in her life. No one had locked her in it. She had built it herself, smile by smile, year by year, and the door handle had vanished somewhere along the way. Jung would say that her suffering was not a malfunction, it was a message. The psyche tolerates the dominance of the persona only for so long, and then it begins to protest, first in whispers, a flatness where joy used to be, a fatigue that sleep does not repair, an irritability that surprises you, and later, if the whispers are ignored, in louder ways. The protest is not your enemy. It is the buried self knocking on the floorboards. There is one moment in every day when even the most fused mask loosens on its own, and you have lived it thousands of times, perhaps without ever noticing what it was. It is the moment late at night when the last door closes, the last message is answered or abandoned, and you stand alone, often in a bathroom, often in front of a mirror, with the day finally finished asking things of you. Watch what happens to a face in that moment. Something lets go in it. The held expression, the prepared pleasantness, the alert readiness to respond, all of it drains away like tension out of a lowered shoulder. And what surfaces in the glass is a face very few people have ever seen. Older somehow and younger at once, undefended, a little tired, unmistakably real. Most people glance away from that face quickly. It can feel like catching a stranger in a private moment, and in a sense it is, because for many of us that face is the least familiar person in our entire acquaintance. But Jung would say that the figure in the late mirror is not the diminished version of you. It is the original, the one all the daily faces were drawn from. And the discomfort of meeting it is simply the awkwardness of two old friends reunited after too many years apart. Some traditions speak of keeping vigil with such moments, and you might try it once, not tonight, but some night. Stay an extra 10 seconds with the unmasked face. Do not fix it. Do not judge the tiredness in it. Do not begin the inventory of flaws that the daytime mind runs by reflex. Just let it be looked at kindly, by you, perhaps the only person who has never really done so. People who practice this report something unexpected. The face does not crumble under the attention. It settles, the way anything settles when it is finally allowed to stop performing, and over weeks a quiet familiarity grows where the strangeness was, and the gap between the day's faces and the night's face begins, very slowly, to close, which is one way of describing the whole work of becoming real, the long marriage of the face you show and the face you are. So what does it mean, in the language of this video, to focus on yourself here? It does not mean tearing the mask off in some dramatic gesture and announcing your unfiltered truth to everyone you meet. Jung never counseled that kind of destruction, because a person with no persona at all is as lost as a person with nothing else. It means something quieter and far braver. It means beginning to notice, in real time, the moments when the mask speaks instead of you, the agreement you did not actually feel, the yes that wanted to be a no, the apology you offered for simply existing inconveniently. You do not have to act on every noticing. The noticing itself is the work, because each act of honest awareness loosens the identification by 1 degree, and 1 degree at a time, the inner voice grows audible again. And if, lying there listening tonight, you have recognized your own face in any of this, the agreeable colleague, the strong one, the one who is always fine, I want to invite you to do something gentle before you drift off, or tomorrow when you wake. Write a few honest sentences in the comments below this video. Not the polished version, the true version. What is the mask you have worn so long it learned your name? You will be writing among thousands of others doing the same thing in the dark, and there is a strange medicine in that, because the persona begins to loosen in the exact moment we let one honest sentence escape from behind it. But there is a second consequence of living behind a mask, one that reaches beyond your own borders. A person who has lost touch with their inner measure has only one instrument left for measuring their life, and that instrument is other people. Number 3, the quiet violence of comparison. Comparison feels like an innocent reflex. You scroll past a former classmate's announcement, a promotion, a wedding, a house with light pouring through large windows, and something in your chest tightens for a moment before you scroll on. It seems like nothing, but Carl Jung would ask you to look at what that tightening actually is, because in his understanding of the psyche, comparison is not a harmless habit. It is a form of self-abandonment, repeated so often it becomes a way of life. Jung built his entire psychology around a single great idea, which he called individuation, the lifelong process by which a person becomes the particular being they were always meant to be. The way an acorn becomes an oak and not a birch, not a willow, not a better acorn. Hidden inside that idea is a radical claim. Every psyche has its own inherent shape and its own inherent timetable. Your life is not a generic life that can be scored against other generic lives. It is the unfolding of something that has never existed before and will never exist again. And this is precisely why comparison wounds us so deeply. When you measure your chapter 3 against someone else's chapter 11, you are not gathering useful information. You are rejecting your own shape. You are telling the acorn it has failed because it is not yet tall, when its entire task at this stage is to deepen in the dark. Jung put it in a sentence of startling simplicity. The shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is no recipe for living that suits all cases. We nod at sentences like that, and then continue living as if there were exactly one recipe, published somewhere we never quite saw, with deadlines for love and wealth, and arrival, and a penalty clause for anyone who falls behind. But notice something important about the pain of falling behind. It almost never comes from your actual life. Your actual Tuesday, the meal you cooked, the work you did, the small progress you made, was bearable, perhaps even quietly good, until the moment you held it up against an image of someone else's Tuesday. The suffering did not come from your life. It came from the measuring. The crowd inside your head did what crowds always do. It shouted over the one voice that actually knows anything about your path. The quiet voice that has been trying, all along, to tell you what you actually need. And the modern theater of comparison has a structural dishonesty built into it that even intelligent people forget every single day. You compare your inside to their outside. You know your own life from the back of the stage, the doubts at 3 in the morning, the marriage's silent Tuesdays, the work that looked effortless and nearly broke you. But you know other lives only from the front row, the announcement, the photograph, the milestone with the lighting already arranged. It is not a fair comparison. It is not even a comparison. It is a documentary measured against a trailer. And the trailer will win every time, because trailers are edited to win. Somewhere tonight, a person whose life you envied this week is lying awake, envying someone else, possibly you, because they too have only seen your trailer. Jung would add something stranger and more useful here, something almost no one says about envy. Envy is unbearable, so we are taught only to suppress it, but in Jung's psychology, every powerful emotion is a messenger, and envy may be the most precise messenger of all. You do not envy everything. You walk past 1,000 enviable lives unmoved, and then one particular life pierces you, and the piercing is information. Envy is the unlived life inside you, recognizing itself in someone else's window. The person who feels sick at a friend's published novel is being told something about their own buried writing. The one who cannot bear photographs of a former classmate's farmhouse and garden is hearing from a self that wanted soil and slowness and chose neither. Jung called these disowned possibilities part of the shadow, and not all of the shadow is dark. Some of it is gold we abandoned because the people around us had no use for it. So the practice is not to scroll past the envy faster. The practice is to stop and interrogate it like a letter from home. What exactly in their life is burning me? Not the whole life, usually. One specific thing. And what is that thing's small, beginnable form in my own? Notice as well how few instruments the crowd's scoreboard actually has. Money, status, milestones, visible beauty, perhaps 5 or 6 measures in all, crude ones, the kind that can be read at a distance by strangers, and now count what they cannot measure. The quality of your attention, the depth of your friendships, what you know about rain, or grief, or birds, the peace of your ordinary Tuesday evening, whether your children exhale or tense when you enter a room, whether you can sit alone at nightfall without flinching from your own company. The scoreboard is silent on every one of these, not because they are minor, but because they cannot be seen from the stands, and the crowd only scores what it can see from the stands. A person who lets that scoreboard run their life has agreed to be measured by an instrument that cannot detect most of what a life is. If you must compare at all, Jung's psychology permits exactly one comparison, the only one with clean instruments, yourself against your own yesterday. Is there 1 degree more honesty in you than last year? 1 degree more capacity to stay present in difficulty? 1 small room of the inner house reclaimed from fear? This comparison never poisons, because both lives being measured are yours. Both are seen from the inside, and the competitor, far from being diminished by your progress, is its only beneficiary. Comparison also lies about time, and this lie may do more damage than all the others combined. It assumes that all lives run on one clock, that there is a correct age for arriving, flowering, and harvesting, and that the calendar can therefore tell you who is winning. But Jung's entire vision of the psyche says otherwise. Lives have seasons, and the seasons are not synchronized. Walk past a field in late winter, and it will look, to an ignorant eye, like failure, brown, dormant, achieving nothing, while somewhere else, vineyards are heavy with fruit. But the field is not failing. It is in a different season, and everything its spring will require is being prepared invisibly, underground, at this very moment. Some of you listening are in a winter like that, watching others harvest, concluding that the difference is worth when the difference is only weather. There was a woman who wrote to this channel about the years her friends were filling with weddings and births while her own life seemed to produce nothing but a small apartment, a string of false starts, and therapy she could barely afford. She described attending her 4th baby celebration in a single summer and crying in her car afterward, not because she wanted precisely that life, but because its absence in hers felt like a verdict. A decade later, the slow, private work of those barren years had become the foundation of everything she now treasured, a vocation that fit her, a late love built on the self-knowledge the hard years had forced, a peace her calendar-driven friends now quietly asked her about. Her winter had not been a verdict. It had been a root system. No one applauds a root system. There is nothing to photograph. But every life that stands in high wind later was secretly built in one. One listener of this channel once wrote to me about the decade he spent becoming successful in a field he had never loved. Every milestone arrived on schedule. The title, the salary, the apartment in the right part of the city. He said the strangest moment of his life was the evening he finally achieved the last item on the list. He stood in his beautiful kitchen, surrounded by the evidence of his victory, and felt nothing but a soft, bottomless emptiness, and a single thought surfaced that frightened him more than failure ever had. He realized he could not remember whose dream this had been. It had entered him so early, through admired older cousins and approving teachers and the ambient applause of everyone around him, that he had mistaken it for his own. He had won a race he never chose to enter, and the prize was a life that fit him like someone else's coat. And if you need permission from the record of actual human lives, the record is generous beyond anything the scoreboard admits. History is crowded with people whose timing would have been judged a failure at every checkpoint along the way. The novelist who did not begin until the age when others retire. The painter dismissed for decades who became, in late life, the very definition of vision. The scientist whose great idea arrived after 20 years of work everyone considered wasted. Jung himself is an example hiding in plain sight. The work the world now considers his most important did not pour out of a confident young man on schedule. It grew out of the most disoriented period of his life, the long middle years when, by every external measure, he was losing his way, his reputation, his certainty, his place in the procession. Had you compared him, in those years, to his more celebrated contemporaries, he would have looked like the cautionary tale. The depth that those dark years were excavating in him was invisible to every onlooker, including, on many days, himself. That is the universal signature of deep timing. It looks like lateness from the outside and like wilderness from the inside. And it reveals itself as preparation only afterward, which means the one moment you can never accurately judge your own pace is the present one. There is an old image worth keeping by your bed for nights when the comparing mind will not be quiet. A person can spend years climbing a ladder with great speed and discipline, outpacing everyone around them, only to reach the top and discover the ladder was leaning against the wrong wall. All that height, and none of it theirs. Meanwhile, someone else spent those same years doing something that looked, from the ladder, like wandering, walking the base of many walls, touching the stones, asking which one was warm. The climbers pitied the wanderer the entire time. But when the wanderer finally began to climb, every rung carried them up a wall they had chosen with their whole soul. And there is no speed on the wrong wall that equals one slow rung on the right one. So the question your life is asking was never, how high, how fast, compared to whom? It was always, whose wall? And that question can only be answered from inside, in the kind of quiet the crowd cannot enter, the kind of quiet you are lying in right now. Let the others climb tonight. Let the procession hurry on without you for these few hours. Nothing true about your life can be decided by its position in someone else's race. And the deepest things growing in you have never once consulted a calendar. Jung saw this tragedy repeated endlessly in his consulting room. Accomplished people, admired people, arriving at midlife with the unbearable suspicion that they had been faithful servants of every voice except their own. And his prescription was never to compete harder or to renounce ambition entirely. It was to redirect the question. Stop asking, where am I compared to them? Start asking, am I moving in the direction of my own nature, at the pace my own depths require? A tree does not grow by glancing sideways at the forest. It grows by sending its roots further down into its own particular ground, through its own particular stones, toward its own particular water. The moment you truly accept that your soul has its own timetable, something extraordinary happens to the noise of other people's lives. It becomes weather, interesting, sometimes beautiful, occasionally instructive, but no longer a verdict on you. And yet, even a person who stops comparing can remain imprisoned by the crowd in a subtler way, because the heaviest gaze you live under was never really coming from other people at all. It was coming from somewhere much closer. Number 4, the judge you carry everywhere. Most people move through the world feeling watched. Not dramatically, not constantly, but as a low background hum, a sense that somewhere a verdict about them is always being prepared. A colleague reads your message and does not reply for a day, and your mind begins drafting explanations for a crime you cannot name. You speak up in a group and afterward replay your own words like a detective reviewing evidence against you. Someone glances at you on the train a moment too long, and you check yourself, your clothes, your posture, your right to be sitting there at all. Carl Jung spent years studying this experience, and he arrived at a conclusion that is both unsettling and profoundly liberating. The courtroom is almost never out there. You carry it with you. Jung called the mechanism projection, and it works like this. Whatever lives in your psyche that you have not yet made conscious does not simply wait politely in the dark. It finds a way out, and its favorite exit is through your perception of other people. The unconscious is like a film projector running behind your eyes. It throws its images onto whatever screen is available, and the most available screens are human faces. If you carry an old, unexamined conviction that you are somehow not enough, you will find that conviction looking back at you from neutral expressions everywhere. If you secretly judge yourself without mercy, you will live among merciless judges, and the remarkable thing is that most of them will have been thinking about their lunch. Jung compressed this entire dynamic into one of the most quietly devastating sentences in all of psychology. When an inner situation is not made conscious, it appears outside as fate. Read your own life through that sentence for a moment. The feeling that people are always slightly disappointed in you. The certainty that you must earn your place in every room. The way criticism, even gentle, lands like confirmation of something you already feared. What if these were never accurate reports about the world? What if they were dispatches from your own interior, stamped with other people's faces to disguise their true origin? There is a kind of optical illusion at work in the wounded psyche. It looks out at the world through glass it does not know is tinted, and it concludes, with complete sincerity, that the world itself is the color of the glass. A man who was shamed early learns to see contempt the way some animals see ultraviolet, detecting it everywhere, even in light that contains none. A woman who was only loved when she performed learns to read every silence as withdrawal. They are not imagining things, exactly. They are remembering things and mistaking the memory for the present moment. Modern psychology eventually measured what Jung intuited and gave one corner of it a name: the spotlight effect, the reliable human tendency to overestimate, sometimes wildly, how much others notice and remember about us. The stumble on the stairs that replayed in your mind all afternoon, registered, in most of the minds around you, for less than a breath, because each of those minds was busy starring in its own drama, running its own trial, monitoring its own imaginary audience. Here is the strange arithmetic of self-consciousness. Everyone is so absorbed in being watched that almost no one is actually watching. The theater is full of actors and the seats are empty. There is real freedom in letting that image complete itself. All of us performing at full intensity for rows of vacant chairs. And the first person in the room to truly understand this is the first person who gets to rest. And projection does not only fling our darkness onto others, Jung insisted, and this is one of his least known and most valuable teachings, that we project our gold as well. Think of someone you idolize, someone whose presence makes you feel smaller in a way that is almost pleasurable, a mentor, an artist, a luminous friend whose gifts seem to belong to another species. Jung would ask you to consider a disorienting possibility. The qualities that mesmerize you in them are, at least in part, your own unlived capacities, exiled so early that when you finally meet them, you do not recognize them as yours. We cannot see in others what is nowhere in ourselves. The depth that moves you in your favorite thinker is answering a depth in you. The courage you worship from a distance is a courage you have not yet introduced yourself to. This is why idol worship always carries that ache inside the admiration. Something of yours is standing over there, wearing someone else's name, and the ache is homesickness. The withdrawal of this golden projection is one of the most beautiful tasks of the second half of life, taking back, one by one, the treasures we buried in other people, and discovering that admiration was a map the whole time, drawn by the psyche, marking the locations of everything we abandoned. A man once described to me the 2 years he spent certain that his supervisor despised him. He could prove it, or so he believed. The clipped replies, the canceled meetings, the way her eyes went past him in hallways. He drafted resignation letters in his head. He performed for her constantly, exhaustingly, the way one performs for a hanging judge. Then one ordinary morning, a colleague mentioned, in passing, that she had been navigating a brutal divorce and a sick parent for 2 years, holding her own collapse together with clipped replies and canceled meetings, barely seeing anyone in any hallway. He told me he sat at his desk afterward, feeling the entire courtroom of those 2 years dissolve around him, every piece of evidence reread in an instant and acquitted, and what remained was not relief exactly. It was awe, and a little horror, at how completely a mind can furnish an empty room with judges. He had not been working for that woman. He had been working for his father's eyebrows, 20 years after the funeral. We are all, more than we know, reporting to the long departed. Now here is the strange mercy hidden inside this discovery. If the judgment you feel from the world is largely your own judgment, projected outward, then you are not nearly as surrounded as you believed. The audience you have been performing for, appeasing, exhausting yourself to satisfy, is mostly a single judge, sitting in a courtroom built long ago, usually in childhood, reading from a transcript that was never accurate even then, and a single judge, once seen clearly, can be retired. How, practically, do you tell a projection from an accurate perception, since the world does contain real coldness and real judges? Jung's tradition offers 3 reliable signatures, and they are worth memorizing. The first is disproportion. When your reaction is far larger than the event, when a 2-line message ruins an entire evening, when a stranger's expression follows you home, the excess energy is almost never about the present. Something old has been touched, and the present moment is merely the doorbell. The second signature is repetition. If the same judgmental figure keeps appearing in your life wearing different faces, the dismissive boss, then the dismissive friend, then the dismissive neighbor, at some point, honest arithmetic suggests that the common element in all these scenes is not them. You are carrying the projector from room to room. The third signature is the charge, that distinctive gripping quality, the way certain interpretations feel less like thoughts you are having and more like weather you are inside of. Accurate perception is usually calm. It observes coldness and adjusts. Projection insists, loops, wakes you at 3 in the morning to review the evidence again. When you find all 3 signatures together, disproportion, repetition, and charge, you may be almost certain that the trial now in session is an old one, reconvened, and that the person in front of you has been conscripted, without their knowledge, to play a part written long before they arrived. The withdrawal of projection, as Jung called it, is slow and humbling work. It means that each time you feel judged, dismissed, or measured, you pause before believing the feeling, and you ask the bravest question in psychological life. How much of this is actually happening? And how much of this is mine? Sometimes the answer will be that the judgment was real, because the world does contain genuine unkindness. But you will be astonished, over months of honest asking, how often the courtroom dissolves under direct light, how often the cold glance turns out to have been tiredness, the silence turns out to have been distraction, the disappointment turns out to have been entirely your own, wearing a borrowed face. And as the projections are withdrawn, one by one, something unexpected returns to you. Energy. All the vitality that was spent monitoring an imaginary tribunal comes home, and you discover how much of your exhaustion was never caused by your life, but by the trial that never stopped running alongside it. People become strangely simple to be around when you stop needing them to acquit you. Conversations become lighter when they are no longer hearings. And in that new lightness, a desire often arises that surprises people who have spent their lives in the crowd, a desire that the unexamined world treats as a symptom, but which Jung understood as a summons. The desire to be alone. Number 5, the solitude that is actually a homecoming. At a certain point along the inner journey, many people notice a change they did not choose and cannot quite explain. Gatherings that once energized them begin to feel like costumes that no longer fit. Conversations they used to enjoy start to seem like elaborate ways of saying nothing. They find themselves declining invitations without knowing why, drawn toward quiet evenings, long walks, empty hours that would once have frightened them. And because our culture has only one diagnosis for this, they worry that something is going wrong with them, that they are becoming antisocial, depressed, broken. Carl Jung saw this turning point very differently. In his understanding, there are seasons when the psyche itself begins withdrawing its energy from the outer world, the way a tree withdraws its sap before winter, not because it is dying, but because something essential is about to happen below the surface that cannot happen in the leaves. The season usually announces itself the same way in every life, and you may recognize the signals, because almost no one is taught to read them. It begins with a subtle loss of appetite that has nothing to do with food. The gatherings still happen, the laughter still functions, but some inner participation has quietly excused itself from the table. You catch yourself observing evenings you used to be inside of. Conversations start to feel like reruns. You can hear the next sentence before it is spoken, your own included, and a peculiar fatigue follows social time that used to follow only labor. The unexamined response is to push harder, accept more invitations, blame oneself for the dimming, schedule the loneliness away. But Jung would have you consider the other reading. When the psyche withdraws energy from the outer theater, it is not malfunctioning, it is reallocating. Something inside has concluded, below the level of your opinions, that the next stage of your growth cannot be performed in public, and it has begun, without consulting you, to close the theater for renovations. Our culture, which has no category for this, will reliably misdiagnose it. Friends will worry. Family will hint. The world will offer its entire pharmacy of distractions. And you, lacking any other map, may join them in treating your turning point as a malfunction, medicating with noise the very silence that was trying to deliver you somewhere. This is perhaps the costliest illiteracy of modern life, the inability to tell a breakdown from a threshold. And although sometimes a person genuinely needs help and should seek it without shame, there are also times, far more common than admitted, when nothing is wrong at all, when the soul has simply finished one chapter of its life and is sitting in the white space before the next one begins. And the only failure possible is to panic in the white space and scribble it full of noise. Jung knew this terrain personally, perhaps more intimately than any psychologist of his century. In the middle of his life, after his break with the public world that had defined him, he entered a long period of deliberate solitude, retreating again and again to a stone tower he built with his own hands beside a lake, a place with no electricity, where he chopped his own wood, drew water, painted, wrote, and listened to what rose up from within him when no other voices were present. He later said that the years of his deepest aloneness were the most important of his life, the years in which everything that mattered in his later work first announced itself. He looked outside and dreamed, then he looked inside and woke. That is the secret our noise-filled culture has almost completely lost. Solitude is not the absence of people, it is the presence of yourself. And for a person who has spent decades living in reaction, reacting to expectations, reacting to opinions, reacting to the endless weather of other people's moods, the first encounters with real solitude can be genuinely disorienting. Because when the noise stops, what you meet first is not peace. What you meet first is everything the noise was covering: the postponed grief, the unanswered questions, the quiet knowledge of how far your life has drifted from your nature. This is why so many people cannot sit in a silent room for 10 minutes, why the phone comes out at the first red light, why the television speaks to empty living rooms all evening. It is not that we love stimulation. It is that we fear the meeting that silence arranges. It matters, first, to separate two words our language keeps confusing: loneliness and solitude, because they describe opposite directions of the soul. Loneliness is the ache of absence. It is being cut off from connection you need, and it can be felt in a crowded room, inside a marriage, at a party thrown in your honor. Solitude is the richness of presence, your own. Loneliness is empty of others. Solitude is full of you. And here is the uncomfortable diagnosis hiding inside the distinction. A person who cannot bear solitude will be lonely everywhere, because the connection they are starving for is not, finally, with other people. The first missing relationship is the one with themselves, and no quantity of company can stand in for it. Which is why some people move through life collecting people the way the validation addict collects approval, in greater and greater amounts, with less and less effect. No one warns you, either, about the withdrawal period, so let this be the warning. When a person accustomed to constant noise first sits down inside real silence, what arrives is not serenity. What arrives is static. The mind, suddenly unemployed, panics like a switchboard operator, with no calls to route. It invents itches, errands, urgent things to look up. The hand drifts toward the phone with the autonomy of a tide. 5 minutes of simple quiet can feel like withdrawal, because it is withdrawal. The nervous system metabolizing its way down from a stimulation it had mistaken for normal. Most people, meeting this static, conclude that silence does not suit them and return to the noise. But the static is not the silence. The static is the noise leaving the body. And on the far side of it, sometimes only minutes further on, the texture changes. The mind settles like sediment in still water, and a person hears, faint and unfamiliar, the sound of their own life proceeding underneath all the commentary. Everything depends on staying those extra few minutes. And notice, finally, what is already arranged for you, tonight and every night, without any tower, by a lake. Sleep itself is solitude, perfected. Every night, without exception, the psyche closes the doors on the entire human race. No companion follows you across that threshold. No audience, no judge, no phone. For a third of your life, the collective simply ceases to exist for you. And in that nightly cloister, the deep mind does precisely the work Jung went to his tower to do: sorting, symbolizing, repairing, speaking to itself in images. You have never missed a single night of this monastery. The invitation of this whole reflection is only to stop fleeing in the daytime from the solitude that heals you every night, to let a little of the night's privacy leak forward into the waking hours. An unaccompanied walk here, a silent morning there, small embassies of sleep established in the territory of the day. The medieval alchemists, whom Jung studied with such devotion in his later years, had a name for the first stage of every true transformation. They called it the nigredo, the blackening, the stage in which the old material breaks down into darkness before anything new can be born. Jung recognized in this strange old language a precise map of psychological change. There is a darkness that means decay, and there is a darkness that means germination. And from the outside, even from the inside, they can look identical. The seed in the ground does not know it is becoming a tree. It only knows that everything it used to be is dissolving, alone, in the dark, with no evidence that the dissolving has a direction. Some of the loneliest seasons of your life were this kind of darkness, and you may not have known it. The friendship circle that quietly thinned, the identity that stopped fitting, the long months when you felt yourself becoming a stranger to your old life, without yet being introduced to your new one. The ego hates this passage, because the ego wants certainty the way lungs want air, and the deep psyche performs its most important work in precisely the seasons when certainty is unavailable. History, if you look closely, keeps this same secret in plain sight. Nearly everything that has ever consoled you at 2 a.m, the music, the books, the ideas that found you when people could not, was forged by someone in a room alone. The melodies were heard first in solitude. The novels that understand you were written by a person who declined 1,000 evenings of company. Even the scriptures of the world's great traditions trace back, again and again, to a desert, a mountain, a forest, a cell, some human being who walked away from the village long enough to bring something back to it. Solitude, far from being the opposite of contribution, has always been its workshop. The crowd consumes in company what was created in silence, and then warns its children not to spend too much time alone. And there is one more reassurance for those who fear that turning inward means losing the people they love. The reliable testimony of everyone who does this work is the opposite. Relationships do not thin after real solitude, they clarify. A person who has learned to be with themselves stops gripping others, stops mining every conversation for reassurance, stops needing company to be medication, and the people in their life feel the difference immediately, even if they cannot name it. Presence without hunger is the rarest gift one human being can offer another, and it can only be grown in the hours spent alone, which means the time you take for your soul was never stolen from the people you love. It was the only way to bring them someone worth being with. So if you find yourself now in such a season, drawn away from the crowd, unable to perform your old self convincingly, sitting with questions that have no schedule, I want you to hear this clearly. In the gentlest voice this channel can offer, you are not falling apart. You are falling inward. And falling inward, in Jung's psychology, is the beginning of every authentic life. The crowd will be there when you return, and you will return, but you will return different, carrying something the crowd cannot give and can no longer take away, an acquaintance with your own depths. Yet Jung would offer one caution here, and it matters. Solitude by itself transforms no one. An empty room can be a sanctuary, or simply an emptier kind of noise, a place where the mind spins through the same anxieties without the distraction of company. What turns solitude into transformation is what you build inside it. And that is where we turn now, to the most practical question of this entire reflection. How does a person actually construct an inner life strong enough that the world loses its power to pull them apart? Number 6. Building an inner life the world cannot take from you. An inner life is not a mood, and it is not a personality trait that some people are born with and others are not. It is a structure, and like every structure, it is built, slowly, through choices repeated until they become a dwelling. Carl Jung understood the psyche as a living economy of energy. He used the old word libido for it, though he meant something far broader than the modern ear hears in that word. For Jung, libido was the total current of psychic energy, the force that powers attention, feeling, desire, imagination, everything that makes a person inwardly alive. And the central law of this economy is simple. Your inner life is whatever your energy flows toward. Not what you believe in, not what you intend, not what you tell yourself on difficult evenings, but where the actual current of your attention goes, hour by hour, day after day. Now look honestly at the modern economy of attention through that law. A person wakes and, before their feet touch the floor, hands the first and freshest energy of the day to a glowing rectangle full of other people's lives, other people's opinions, other people's emergencies. Through the day, their attention is pulled into 100 small reactions, messages that demand answering, feeds that demand scrolling, frictions that demand replaying. By evening, they are too depleted for anything but more consumption, and they cannot understand why they feel so scattered, so thin, so far from themselves. Jung would understand immediately. Their energy has been flowing outward through every open door, all day, every day, for years. The house is cold because the heat has never once been allowed to stay inside. The first discipline of an inner life, then, is the unglamorous practice of closing doors. Not forever, and not all of them, but deliberately, daily. A morning hour that belongs to no one, before the world is allowed in. When you sit with your coffee and your own mind, and discover what is actually moving in you, before anyone tells you what should be. A walk without sound in your ears, where thoughts are permitted to finish themselves for the first time in days. An evening boundary past which the glowing rectangle sleeps in another room, so that the last images of your day are your own. These sound like small things, almost embarrassingly small, and that is precisely why they work. The inner life is not built in retreats and revelations. It is built the way a coastline is built, by the patient daily return of the tide. A school teacher who follows this channel once wrote about what a single reclaimed hour did to her life. And her account is worth retelling because it shows how unmystical this work really is. For 20 years, her mornings had belonged to everyone but her. The alarm, the phone, the news, the lunches, the door. She described herself as arriving at school already spent, having reacted to 40 things before 8 o'clock without originating one. Then, during a difficult winter, on no advice but her own desperation, she began waking 40 minutes earlier, and she made one rule for that time. Nothing enters. No phone, no news, no voices. Just a chair by the window, a pot of tea, a notebook she wrote in if she felt like it and ignored if she did not, and the slow blue lightning of the sky. She admitted the first week felt absurd, even wasteful, sitting there producing nothing while a full day waited. But she stayed with it, and the account she gave months later was the account everyone gives. The 40 minutes did not change. The day around them changed. She walked into the same chaotic school, the same demanding rooms, and found she was meeting them from somewhere slightly behind her own eyes. A half step of inner distance that changed everything, because she had begun the day as a person before beginning it as a function. Her students noticed before she did. "You seem different," one of them told her. "Calmer, like you are actually here. She wrote that she nearly cried at that, because actually here was the precise thing she had been missing for 2 decades, and the toll for returning had been nothing but 40 minutes of her own undefended company. This is the modest secret of the first discipline. The inner life does not ask for your life. It asks for a margin of it, faithfully protected, and from that margin it will quietly reorganize the whole. The second discipline is harder, because it concerns people. If energy is the currency of the soul, then every relationship and every obligation in your life is a transaction, and a truthful audit will reveal what you have, perhaps long suspected. Some of your connections nourish you. Some are neutral, the ordinary commerce of living, and some are quiet leaks, relationships maintained out of guilt, habit, or the persona's fear of being thought unkind. Conversations after which you always feel slightly less than before. Rooms in which you must inflate a false self just to breathe. Jung never preached the abandonment of others, and neither does this channel. Love and duty are real, and some draining seasons must simply be carried. But there is a difference between carrying what love requires and bleeding for what fear requires, and a maturing person learns to tell them apart. You are permitted to let certain doors close softly. You are permitted to be thought distant by people who only ever knew your performance. The energy you reclaim is not selfishness. It is the raw material of every gift you will ever genuinely give, because no one pours from a vessel the crowd has already emptied. The third discipline was, for Jung, the most important of all, and it is the one our culture has most completely forgotten. The psyche does not live on information. It lives on meaning, and meaning speaks in symbols, images, dreams, rituals, the wordless language of depth. This is why Jung gave such weight to practices that seem useless to the productive mind. Keeping a journal where the inner voice is allowed to speak without editing. Writing down dreams in the morning, not to decode them like puzzles, but to show the unconscious that someone is finally listening. Reading slowly, tending something living, sitting with music in the dark, returning to the same quiet ritual each night until it becomes a door. Jung himself, the great doctor and scholar, spent evenings carving stone and painting images from his dreams, and when asked why, he answered in essence that he was giving the inner life a body. Every such practice sends the same message downward into the depths. There is someone home now. You can speak. And the depths, which have usually been waiting for decades, begin to answer. Slowly at first, in moods that make new sense, in dreams that grow vivid, in a strange settledness that arrives without any external reason. And there is a fourth discipline, the one most suited to this hour, and it may be the most quietly powerful of them all. Befriend the night. Jung took dreams more seriously than almost any thinker of his age, not as nonsense the brain sweeps out, but as letters from the deep self, written in the only language the depths possess, the language of image and story. You do not need to analyze them like a scholar. You need only receive them like mail. A notebook by the bed, a few lines on waking, the simple courtesy of attention. People who begin this practice report the same strange development within weeks. The dreams grow clearer, more articulate, as if the sender, discovering that letters are finally being opened, begins to write more carefully. A correspondence starts between the day self and the night self, and a person in correspondence with their own depths becomes very difficult for the world to destabilize, because they are no longer a single beleaguered ego facing the crowd alone. They have a second opinion now, from somewhere older. The threshold of sleep deserves its own small ritual, and you can begin it tonight, here, as you listen. Lying in the dark, walk backward through your day, slowly, without judging any of it, the way you might walk back through a house, turning off lights, room by room. The conversation that snagged you. Release it, the face you maintained in the afternoon meeting. Release it, the version of you that was efficient, the version that was patient, the version that was fine. Thank each one, because they were trying to protect you, and release them, one light, then another, until the house of the day stands dark and quiet behind you, and what remains is only the one who walked through it, the one who needs no light to be real. Do this nightly, and the threshold becomes a practice, and the practice becomes a dwelling, and the dwelling, in time, becomes you. Let us walk that ritual once together, slowly, right now, since the hour is right and the day is ready to be put down. Begin at the most recent room, this one, the bed, the dark, the voice you are listening to, and notice there is nothing required of you here, no response to compose, no expression to wear, so this light is already off. Step back into the evening. Whatever the evening held, the meal, the screens, the conversations, or the silence, it is finished now, complete exactly as it was, beyond improvement and beyond repair. And you may turn off its light and let the evening stand dark behind you. Step back into the afternoon. There was effort in it somewhere, attention paid out, patience spent, perhaps a moment you wish had gone differently, and you may set even that down, because the afternoon has already been filed in the long archive of afternoons, and no amount of holding it can edit it now. Off goes that light too. Step back into the morning, all the way back to the first reach, the first demands, the person you assembled to meet them, and thank that person, sincerely, for getting you through, and release them from duty. For the assembly is no longer needed where you are going. The morning goes dark, gently, gratefully. And now the whole house of the day stands behind you with its windows unlit, quiet as a ship at anchor. And notice who remains, the one who walked through every room, who wore every face, and was never any of them, who was present at the morning and the afternoon and the evening the way the sky is present to weather, containing it all, stained by none of it. That one does not need a light to be real. That one is what remains when everything that can be turned off has been turned off. And it is into those hands, your own oldest hands, that you are now lowering the entire weight of the day. Feel how the body responds to even hearing this. The breath lengthening on its own, the weight settling into the mattress, because the body has always known how to put down what the mind insists on carrying. The shoulders soften, the hands uncurl, the face, with no one left to address, becomes simply a face, your oldest possession, the one you had before you learned what faces were for. There is nothing to maintain in this darkness. There is nothing to maintain in this darkness, only breath and weight and the slow, honest dark, doing for you what no audience ever could. This, finally, is what it means to focus on yourself. Not narcissism, which is actually the persona's hunger wearing a bolder mask, not indifference to the world, which is just another reaction to it, but the patient construction of an interior dwelling, a place where your worth is stored under your own roof, where the weather of opinion can rage without reaching the hearth, where you can return each night and find yourself waiting. Jung had a name for what slowly forms at the center of a person who practices all of this, and he chose the word with care. He called it the self, with a capital letter, to distinguish it from the small daily ego with its schedules and its fears. The self, in his psychology, is the deep center and the whole circumference of the psyche at once, the wholeness you were before the world began editing you, and the wholeness you are always, underneath the editing still. He noticed that when people draw or dream this center, across every culture and every century, the same image returns, a circle, a square within a circle, a form organized around a middle point. And he observed that people in periods of inner chaos often begin spontaneously sketching such forms, as if the psyche, shaken, were reminding itself that it has a center. Your nightly return inward is the same gesture drawn in time instead of ink, a daily circling back to the middle point, and Jung was clear that the path of a life is exactly this shape. Not a straight line of progress, but a circling, returning again and again to the center, each time from a slightly greater depth. So do not be discouraged that you have had to learn tonight's lessons before, that you have made this resolution in other years and lost it in other crowds. You were not failing to advance. You were circumambulating, circling the one center a human life is given, and every return counts, including this one, including tonight. And here's the quiet miracle that everyone who builds such a dwelling eventually reports. The world does not lose its beauty when you stop needing it to approve of you. It gains beauty. People become more lovable when they are no longer your judges. Work becomes lighter when it is no longer your trial. Even criticism becomes survivable, sometimes even useful, when it lands on a self that was already standing before the criticism arrived and will still be standing after. So as this night closes around you, let the day's performances fall away one by one. The version of you that was capable, the version that was agreeable, the version that was fine. Let them rest on the chair like clothing, because they were never the body, only the costume. And the one who wore them has been waiting all day, all year, perhaps all your life, for this moment of return. Somewhere beneath everything you have had to be, there is still the one you actually are, patient as ground, older than your fears, unimpressed by applause and unharmed by its absence. Carl Jung gave his whole life to one conviction, that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, not who they needed, not who they rewarded, not who they would have approved of, who you truly are. The world will go on watching, measuring, murmuring its endless verdicts, and that is all right, because tonight, perhaps for the first time in a long while, you are no longer performing for it. You are simply here, breathing slowly, settling downward, focused at last on the only life that was ever yours to live. Sleep now, and let the deep mind continue this work in the dark, the way roots grow, unseen, unhurried, and entirely your own. And now there is nothing left to do, which is the whole point. Nothing to do, no one to be, nowhere to arrive. Let the breath grow long and unhurried, the way breath becomes when no one is measuring it. With every exhale, somewhere in the body, a door that was held open all day swings gently shut. The door of being perceived, closing. The door of being compared, closing. The door of the old courtroom, its lights already off, its judge long since gone home, closing, closing. The crowd is dissolving now the way crowds dissolve at the end of an evening. Voices thinning down the street, growing distant, growing kind, until what remains is only the original quiet. The quiet that was always underneath. The quiet you were made of before you learned your own name. You do not have to hold your face any particular way in this darkness. You do not have to be impressive for the night. The night has seen every face you own and has only ever asked for this one, the unguarded one, the one that is surfacing now as the muscles forget their assignments. Heavy now, heavier, the mattress holding you the way the ground holds a tree, without conditions, without review. And if sleep begins to take you before these words are finished, let it take you mid-sentence, because that was always the design of this hour, to be the voice you do not need to answer, the company you do not need to entertain, the one room in your whole wide day where being yourself and doing nothing were finally completely enough. Good night, dear listener. You were never the mask. You were always the one who could take it off. Sleep now, focused at last, gently and entirely, on yourself.